when I started preparing myself for this speech, I remembered somehow, as I'm an employer for some time, a friend of mine, which works in a big company, he had a job interview and he had candidates for managing position. And so after, I think 17th person in a row, one guy came up, and then it was a nice talk, and then after all, they decided that, okay, maybe he fits the company and the culture and everything. And then he said, like, what salary you would like to get? And at that time, he said that, like, enormous amount of money. And then he said, okay, maybe it's a bit above our expectations, but maybe this could be solved out. And then he asked, like, what are your main goals, like personal ones? And then the guy said, you know, actually, I can tell you honest. And imagine, like, 1 hour of perfect job interview, and after this, the conclusion. He said, you know, I just finished the studies, and now I'm having a wife, and my wife is pregnant. We're planning to build a house. So actually, I'm not that much into work anymore. And what I'd like to do is, you know, to grow up my kids, be with my wife, and travel a lot. Okay, so this was somehow related to the salary and all that stuff, but he definitely wasn't hired. And for me, it was the interesting part, like, why this happened? Like, if you imagine something's 20 or 30 years, you would never gonna have a situation like this. So I started to think about this, that something changed in our mental thinking, or something just changed in our behavior. And the main thing is, 20 years back, there was an experiment that happened in the United States. And so the experiment, it was broadcasted live on a TV show, and so the TV host selected 5 kids, and they were like 4 or 5 years old, quite young ones, and so he gave all of them a question. What would you like to be when you grow up? And so the kids, at first, they were really excited that they got this question, so they had some time to think about it, and then the next thing, the first boy comes, 4 years old, and quite nice looking, and happy about himself, and he said, so, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so the kid said, you know what, I want to be a postman. Oh, a postman. And then it was a bit unexpected, like, why? Then he asked, like, why do you want to be a postman? And then the kid was so happy to tell that he wants to be a postman because of the fact that every Christmas and Easter and all other celebrations, he could be the one who is the first person to read all the greeting cards. Okay, this is nice. Then the next boy came up and he said, like, who you want to be? And he said, I want to be a fireman. Okay, that's nice. And when you think about fireman, you're rescuing people and all that stuff. But then he said, like, why do you want to be a fireman? And he said, you know what? There's so many cats in burning houses, so I could save all of them, and that the cats would be thankful to me somehow. So I would be the most happy person with lots of cats. Okay, this is kind of fair. And then there was a girl. And so, and it continued like this, and all these boys, you know, all the people in a studio, they were smiling, and it felt really, really good. And so someone decided to make this experiment again, and it happened a few years back. And so there was again, it was 10 boys and girls, and it was the same question. And so the first Afro boy comes into the stage, and then he gets the same question. And the boy says, so I want to be an investment banker, and it's like 4 years old. And then the host asks, like, do you know what does it mean to be an investment banker? And the boy says, I don't care. And then he said, why do you want to be an investment banker? And then he said, because I want to have loads of money. Okay, this kind of fair. Then the next boy comes, and then the same question, and the boy says, I want to be a rapper. Okay, and then why you want to be a rapper? And then imagine a 3.5 years old boy saying, because then I could have all those bitches. That's kind of fair. And then the third, there comes a girl, and also the girl, she says she want to be a model. And then what kind of model? And then you get the idea. So what happens when you think of it, like somehow you just step back a bit and you think about what happened. It's actually a disaster. Not to go deeply into this, but it seems that, you know, everything is lost. We can just, you know, stand up and go home and just cry or something. But so the kids changed a bit differently, and you know, those we have this saying in Lithuania about this wooden toy attached to the ground and something. So maybe something's really changed, but maybe we still have a hope, and that hope might be found a bit earlier. This somehow should reflect our parents. And maybe we have too much of everything, or maybe the media that gives us everything maybe a bit makes the picture incorrect. I'm being diplomatic here. So I started to think, like, what happened to those kids? Like, what was the main state of mind that changed, and what was the complete difference when, you know, when the same question was asked? And then I started thinking about our parents. And our parents had, let's say, a fantastic life. They had a healthy wife and healthy kid. They have an apartment, and at some point you are successful if you moved from small town to the bigger town, or from village to town. And if you, at that time, like 50 years back or 40, 45 years back, if you had this thing called mandarini fruit at home 50 years back, you were super successful. If you had brandy under the table, you were double more happy than anyone else. And if you knew the neighbor who can sell you the brandy or stuff. So at this point, you must calculate whether happiness levels actually reaching the peak. So if you have all those things, you are quite happy. And who is happy today? Today, you are happy if you have only one thing. And that thing is, if you are Beyonce. And if you're not Beyonce and you're aiming to it, so it's quite a depressing, because you start realizing that you're not gonna be, despite that Instagram and Pinterest says you, Beyonce also has 24 hours. We all know that she has 24 hours, so are we. But the thing is that, you know, now to be normal is not okay. If you're not on a media, it's not okay. If you're not popular, it's not okay. You know, this scrolling and browsing and all that stuff is so getting into us. It's not becoming our culture, it's becoming us. So everyone wants to be popular, everyone wants to be liked, everyone just wants to be famous, at least for 24 hours. So I think that the main problem, and when you look at the reflection of history, it's the first time in history as we don't have wars, I mean global wars, for such a long period of time. So, and we have everything. Okay, maybe this is too depressing. Let's say this is how we look now. So we have everything. And by saying everything, I mean that all of us can have almost anything we can imagine, because if you don't have it, if you don't have money, you can take a loan. If you want to travel, the borders are all open. If you don't like the people you're surrounded, you just change the location and then you change the people. You know, you can taste any kind of food. Like, I can stop here, but we have everything. We have absolutely everything. So there's no deficit anymore. And by saying that there's no deficit, there's a pros in this and perks in this situation. So we have time. And by saying time, it's the only little thing that we have, and only some of us appreciate. I think that all of you that are here really understand what I mean by saying that you wake up in the morning and you have those 24 hours and everyone gets the same amount of time. So you just have to do it with it something, or you just can, you know, you're passing it all through the day. So by saying time, it's the first time in history as we have these conditions. So this is Stroho. It's a monastery of Stroho in Prague. And if I now ask you a question, how many, there's a library, the old one, and if I ask you a question, how many books, book titles there are in the library, normally it would take about 40 seconds for anyone here to take the phone, Google it, and then tell me the answer. Imagine this situation 20 years back, 10 years back, or 50 years back, and then you have to understand that we're not changing the facts, we just, the way we can get it, it's getting obvious, everything is in your pocket, and so there are 260,000 books. And what I'm saying about this, that everything is changed about the information. So now, why educational system is struggling? The only reason is that we are not, the value is not anymore to get the information, the value is to combine it, to learn how to combine the information, but the information by itself has no such value as they had before, because everyone has the same tools, has the same access to any kind of databases or something. So, and then I go further with the job. You know, there's no such thing as company culture anymore. Yes, all of the companies declare that they still have this, but you know what is the next big thing? The next big thing is that there are culture of individuals. And if you don't like the company, so you're not posting anything from your job, or you're posting not positive things, it means you don't like your workplace, your job, and you are not happy. But if you're happy, then you are the one who is creating this company culture. And if you're posting from, you know, from your fancy desk or your lounge room in your office or your football table or something, and you're sharing this experience that you receive in your job, so this is the way you're creating the culture. And the companies, the old-fashioned ones, still believe that they're creating the culture, but it's something that, you know, it's a disease. Everyone is already sick, I mean the corporates, and everyone is really getting in a bad situation, but not everyone still understands. But the social media does the thing. And so it's the first time in history when, let's say you want to be a manager or you want to work as a lawyer. So by 40 years old, being 40 years old, you can be at the top of it, like you can have your own company, you can have profitable company, you can have clients you wanted, and you can have the expertise you always wanted. And at this time, you can stop everything, buy a ticket, a round-trip world journey, and just travel for 1 year, then get back and decide to do something else. And by 60 years old, you definitely, possibly, can become a famous painter. And so you can do 2 spins in your career. And this was never possible till, you know, this age of information. And there's a breakthrough in this that, you know, everyone is now giving a lot of motivational speeches and a lot of inspirational speeches, and all that stuff is more about that you have somehow find yourself, find your passion, and then follow it up. And more people talk about it, more bullshit it sounds, and more people telling you what to do, you have somehow to do this thing. You have to stop. There's a writing stop on this white background. But this is actually a huge meaning in it. If we, for some time, think and stop a bit about the environment where we are, so we understand that most of the things are fashionable things. The other things are the ones that we follow, the trendy ones. Then we follow some people, and we follow up their opinions or inspiration or something. But if we, for some time, just stop and think about ourselves, then we understand a lot of things. And the first thing is be real. And by saying be real, there's another experiment that happened in France. And in south of France, they were asked about 100 people how they would feel happy if they have a winery or a cheese company or something, but they are producing it by themselves. So no technologies, no machines. And most of the people, like it's really high percentage, said that, oh, it would be fantastic. And then the same thing happened in Eastern Europe and in North Europe. So most of the people, for perfect conditions of work, they want to be managers of the managers. So everyone wants to be a manager. Why? Because it's prestige. And you know, to have a cheese company is not a prestige at all. But it's not a prestige here, but it's still prestige somewhere else. And why this has happened? Because we were, for so long, we had such a big deficit, and now we have everything, and we have no idea what to do with it. And by saying be you, it means that, you know, if you're reading all those books, especially all this American culture, you can get the wrong idea. Imagine you're giving away let's say Raffaello or something to a guy who wants to eat some zeppelini. So, you know, it's really fantastic to eat this Raffaello and all that nice food, but all you want to do is you want to fulfill your stomach. So by saying be you, you must understand that it's not about inspirational books or pin boards on Pinterest or things like that, but more or less it's about the passion that it's not, you know, just throw away everything and just travel the world, because you will like it for 1.5 months, and after 2 months you will get back, because you understand that, okay, I'm traveling, but what's next? And unless you want to be a travel journalist or something. But it's the same as you expect to have the like fantastic salary, and people are happy with fantastic salaries only for 2 weeks. Then after 2 weeks they start thinking, and after 2 months they understand that this is not about the money. Imagine like, there's always a question. You have to put a dot in on paper for all day, but the employer will pay you 10,000 euro per month, but you have to do only you put dots on white paper, and after the day you just put it in the trash and start imagining what's going to happen. Like, you're getting 10,000, but all you do is you're putting dots. So this will give you the sense of, you know, that the money is really not the important thing. And then it says don't stuck, but the problem is that we are so narcissist, everyone, and we so much in love with ourselves and with our ideas. But two things: the ideas, actually it cost -1 million, and when you think about anything, you have to think this way, that okay, this is, now I have a debt and I have to figure it out, so I mean to proceed and to finish something. But when you see that things don't go, set up the time, and if you're not happy for 1 year, like you're not executed the thing you expected, and the things are not getting brighter, so this could be a sign that you must stop. But in other hand, you must finish what you started, because this is the main problem of our generation, that one day we are writing a book, the other day we're opening a bar, and then the third day we think that we need to start a music band, and then the fourth day we need to go to work for the corporates, and then we go to, you know, places to drink some coffee and browse some Facebook, because we have to think what we have to do. Okay, and so please finish, and here's some bananas for you.